I must tell that I'm very happy and very proud to be here 2 years later, 2 years after the latest HAI here back in the US. And I must say, in everything is better than 2 years ago, and the atmosphere is the same, and we have just changed our way to work. We have also changed our commercial position with the customers, but we are still the same company marketing the same product and with new programs and new opportunities. Then, 2 years ago, when we were exhibiting at the same place with the same partners, I must say that the helicopter market was at a very bad time. And when people ask me in France, how is your recovery from the COVID? After these 2 years of crisis, I start to tell them that the COVID was very different for us in helicopter business than in fixed-wing business, because 2019 was the worst year I have known in our history, and then the COVID struck just at this moment. And our reaction to the COVID was to increase our effort to strengthen our technical position, to increase our effort to survive, of course, with no business for 6 months, and to take this opportunity to venture on new programs and to venture on new development of this helicopter. So we did our best, like everybody in the industry, to make this big crisis an opportunity. And I'm very happy to see that it did work. That means today we are here with the same helicopter with many improvements that we have prepared and finished during these 2 years, with new programs that have been strengthened and that have been confirmed, and also with new customers that are coming in good numbers. So this helicopter, for example, is the first one that we deliver in the US with a new cockpit that we have started to develop 2.5 years ago, and we were successful enough to finish the qualification, the certification during the COVID. It was a significant challenge because no test pilot could fly at this time, because the EASA people was not available, because the FAA was not available, but we managed to certify this cockpit during these low times, and now we are happy to deliver it, and we are happy to see that we have some success and that we meet customers' expectations. And we are also happy to show a few improvements that we have developed during the COVID period, because we had time to do that. And example, it doesn't show here very much, but it's a very symbolic equipment to me, because this is a generic payload support. This is just a removable window that you can change in 10 minutes with a support that will carry any gimbal camera, any sensor, any leader, and then it is fully certified, and we are experiencing a good success now because it is ready when we need it. And it's a new concept because the customer could take the helicopter and immediately certify any payload without any test flight. We have done all the test flight with all kind of payload of any weight up to the maximum capability of a helicopter, There is no aerodynamic change, and it's a completely new concept where the customer could buy a Swiss knife to fly any sensor he could find. Because we found that with our production, our limited production in small numbers, we had more potential customization, or almost as many potential customization as customers. So our answer is to certify a generic support where the customer could install any sensor, any camera, any magnetic sensor, any LiDAR. And there are many different sensors that are concerned. We also have very opportunistically used the COVID period to finally certify the air conditioning. And we are now delivering the first helicopters with air conditioning. And all together with the very strong recovery of the industry that we see, and particularly in the North American market, the US and the Canada, we are very happy today that after these 2 bad years, we sort of have the right product at the right moment. And I must say that before we came here, our order position, our order book was much better than it was before the COVID. Then it also opened a significant number of opportunities for new developments, because like in many places in Europe, we have some opportunities to help finance innovation. And it was also, the last year was also the opportunity for us to restart or to increase the power on future development of a bigger helicopter that all our customers have always been waiting for, particularly in the US market. Of course, we want to develop more helicopters, but we need a positive environment to do that. And a growing market in a modified environment with new customers is just a better opportunity to do that. So more than ever, we are here in a new, just like newcomers. And to be honest, this year HAI resembled to me to the very early one that we participated in 2015, where it was the first time, and our position was very similar to today. So it's just to say how happy I am here, and also we enjoy very much to be, after 7 years, with the same partner, Precision Helicopter, always there for 7 years, with high and lows in business. But now we are together in a climbing high, and with just 7 years of cooperation behind, so it's much stronger position. So thank you Precision for that. Thank you David, and thank you all the team. Thank you. So if you have any question regarding...
So what about the four-seater?
I must say that the four-seater, thank you for waiting 10 minutes to ask the question, because usually it's much less. Was it a journalist? Was it a customer? Was it a supplier? Usually this question is after 1 minute. I have seen a customer, a potential customer, crossing the Atlantic to ask me only this question, and then coming back the same day with the answer. So it's a lot of time wasted for just this question. So thank you for having me cross the Atlantic to answer your question. The four-seater is the obvious follow-on of a Cabri. Not because we want to compete with Robinson. Definitely not. We are not going to compete with Robinson in terms of numbers, because from the very first day, 20 years ago when I started to think of a Cabri as a concept, my main goal was to supply, to produce. The helicopter was missing, the helicopter market was missing aside the Robinson line. And when I decided that, Robinson was very successful, selling 200 helicopters a year, and I had no idea that I would sell 200 instead of them. But I was very frequently asked about giving a Eurocopter-like helicopter to the Robinson-like market. And this is how the program started. So obviously, my purpose is not to replace Robinson, but still, a two-seater is the worst helicopter you can develop, because a two-seater is too expensive. A two-seater is mostly used for training, so it's a shitty mission. It's a poor business model, and it's a very poor technical model. And obviously, there is no successful manufacturer of two-seat helicopter. I know one with a Tiger and with the Apache, but it's not the best job to make two-seat helicopters. And because it's not a car, it's not a Porsche, it's not a hot car, and since the day one, we have been asked for a bigger helicopter to be the production version of a two-seater. Obviously, there is a beautiful place on Earth, under the sun, for a four-seater with a Cabri characteristics and with the existing Robinson market. And obviously, there is room for both of us, and I've been thinking of that since the beginning. The first point is that you cannot do it in a year or two, and also we cannot miss the target, because nobody wants to jeopardize a program reasonably successful. So we are now refining the bigger helicopter program to make sure that it will hit the target. Problem is, everybody wants a bigger helicopter, but nobody exactly wants what they want. They just want a bigger one, very good. So I'm a little bit painful when I learned that a new program had signed 200 pre-orders, or 200 deposits, or 900 deposits, because I have been refusing deposit for now 4 years. I have been refusing deposit on a four-seater for 4 years, because when I look back in my short experience in the helicopter industry, the higher the number of deposits, the lower the number of sales. I can give you many examples. Say the MD-900. MD-900, they took 500-600 deposits, and they sold no helicopter. Because you cannot take a deposit before the helicopter flies. If you take a deposit, when people take deposit before the helicopter fly, it's when they need financing. It's when we need credibility with investors. Because if I want to sign a deposit, I will have to give a price. I will have to give a set of performance. and it will be good. And then, if a helicopter doesn't hit the target, then I have to give back the deposit and I've lost everything. So deposit, it's not an engineer act, it's a financial act. And I'm happy to say that in the last 5 years, we ran out of this business. And 6 years ago, the company I had the majority, but it was a company with investors. And probably the biggest achievement in terms of revenue we have made is that now the company is fully independent. So in the last 5 years, we did not manage to fully develop a bigger helicopter, but we managed to buy back all our investors. So now we are a fully independent company. If I want to change the name, I can change it in one day. And it's now a family-owned company and fully independent with healthy financing, but it's a small company and we are not going to jeopardize all of that to save 1 year in a bigger helicopter. So now we are a small company developing a bigger helicopter. It will take the time it will take, but we know that all our customers will like it. You know, I worked 5 years I've worked 20 years with Airbus and with Eurocopter then, and including 5 years on the EC120 program as deputy engineer for the dynamics and rotorhead and transmission. And in the EC120 initial program specification, the autopilot was, and by then Eurocopter had sold 6,000 or 7,000 écureuils and not more than a handful of autopilot. And then they wanted that the EC120 has an autopilot. And then it never attracted any interest. And when I look at today's mission for the Cabri, it's 80% training and 20% aerial work. I have no clue of any need for an autopilot on any of these missions. I've never met a single customer asking me for an autopilot today. Autopilot is useless for training. Autopilot is useless for aerial work, like training for sling. For me, sling is not training. Sling is training for sling. And it is in aerial work category. No autopilot for surveillance, and we have a very nice mission that I love with our Canadian customer. They fly all the day long, searching for uranium for French company in North Canada. Because as you may know now, we French are very happy to have uranium, to have nuclear energy, particularly today with Russia. And so uranium research, uranium searching is a very, very, very good job today for the future. And this is a typical mission for the Cabri, which has great future, where it does better than a drone, it does better than a big helicopter, and it is the price of a drone with the quality of a big helicopter. And no need for an autopilot, because it's all autopilot, but the payload is the autopilot. So I have no idea for that. And also, did you fly a Cabri once? Because, okay, because I am one of the few who fly a Cabri for cross country, because I'm not an instructor. But I don't need an autopilot in a Cabri because I can have a nap, I can have a sandwich, I can open my chart, I can read the flight manual while I'm flying with no autopilot. We have a contest among the company pilot like Rafael, like the other private pilot, for the one who will fly the longest time with releasing the controls. And today it is 15 minutes. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, with hands off, just leaning your hand. So it's not a practical way to replace an autopilot, but it's a way to say that flying the helicopter is not a heavy pilot workload. You can fly the helicopter with your knees and look for the weather outside. Yes, trim, of course, trim, but also stability and also availability of your knees. So I'm not sure that autopilot will be something, maybe an auto trim, but you know, it's quite quick to learn auto trim. It's quite quick. A point, I'm very happy to say that the market demand is quite high at the moment, but one point is particularly good for me, is that it's not the same market, it's not exactly the same market than 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we came here with a very small order book, like 3 months order book. So the minimum visibility to be safe, and a very good prospect book. We had, for example, we had a very good inquiry from South America for military markets, military training in South America. And we had good expectation at the moment, and the COVID completely shut them. And today we have again a very good order book, but we have not seen any of the initial 2019 prospect coming back. They did not come back yet. That means that we have decent peace of mind that after this post-COVID increase that we see now, like everybody around, we may have a normal recovery of a previous normal market for the military, for the government, for etc. And this is good because I have been explained from the very beginning of my career that the market is cyclic, and I don't like the high slope it has today, because the higher the slope up, the higher the slope down, of course. For an engineer at least, I don't know for marketing people, but for an engineer, the higher the climb, the higher the descent, and in any cyclic phenomenon. So I'm happy to say that the very high climb in the market we see today will hopefully be followed by the recovery of another market. And if we have some chance for an engineer, if we can phase the two phenomena, one will cancel the other. So my hope is not that we have something to do for the next year. We already have a lot of work for the next year, but it's that we have some good prospect for the year after the next year, when this fire will be fading out.